Hi everyone, welcome back to our little Farmall F14 project here that we're restoring. Today we're going to be looking at the clutch on it. Now we've pulled a few more bits off, we've taken the fuel tank off, and we've taken, there's a cover that sits in here, tin cover that sits across here, and there's this rather nice little flexible coupling that goes between the clutch output shaft and the gearbox input shaft. This works. It's got rubbers in here. These pieces here are slightly flexible, but mainly it just flexes on the rubbers, and it's just a really short little tail shaft. Now the reason we need to take the clutch apart, here's the clutch pedal up here. It's seized up. It is not the external cross shaft here. I suspect that it's probably the fingers on the pressure plate inside the bell housing here that have seized up from here. Okay, this is actually a little bit of an unusual clutch setup in here, and I haven't seen one quite like this before. We can see a little bit of rust in there. I also know there's a fair bit of wear on the splines from the input shaft. When I turn this, the clutch plate doesn't turn, so there's worn splines in there. It looks like there's some adjustments on the pressure plate. Here are the springs for the pressure plate. So we'll take the bell housing off. We've got to undo this row of bolts around here and have a look in there and see what we find. Okay, so the first thing we need to take off is this pin here for the accelerator linkage. There's a cotter pin in the back here that we need to undo, and it's fairly rusty, so I'm not sure it's going to come out. Oh. It's actually moving in there, so that's nice. Cotter pin comes out, this one comes out of here, and hopefully we're able to, this is the governor mechanism, it goes forward to the engine governor, which is up here, and this is the governor rod up to the carburetor here. And then we can just take this out, and we're just going to put this back in for safekeeping. And we'll pull this back and out the way. We also need to take the clutch, the pin off that holds the linkage for the clutch pedal on. And there's two holes here for clutch adjustment. We are in the front hole at the moment. There's three holes on the back, so there's a fair bit of adjustment on this clutch still. We'll just put that pin back in there. The pin's a little bit on the worn side, so is the hole. That's not going to make a huge difference to this machine. And then we've just got to go around and loosen off all of these bolts around the bell housing here. Okay, so we've got the bell housing off. You can see the spline shaft that comes into the clutch plate. This goes into a spigot bearing in the back of the flywheel. It's probably a spigot bush on this one. It's actually got a little bit of a lip on the end here. This shaft is incredibly worn on the splines here. I have never seen one quite that bad. So I don't know what has caused that other than just a lot of years of use. There on the outside here, there's a funny bung that I had wondered what was for. And if we look inside here, there's a grease nipple that you need to take that bung out and grease that grease nipple. That's for the clutch throw-out bearing, which is here. That's not great, that bearing. So the reason the clutch isn't working is actually because this cross shaft here has seized up somewhere, I think on this side here. So a bit later on we'll take that apart and free that up. And we'll have a look in here at the clutch plate. This is a rather nicely made clutch plate. Here are the springs, pressure. This is the pressure plate. Here are the springs to keep the pressure on. Here are the splines that the shaft goes into. So this piece in the middle here is the clutch plate. The push-out bearing runs on these three fingers here. When you push them, it compresses these springs, takes the pressure off the clutch plate in there and allows that to freewheel. This one's rather nice because it's got adjustments here to get these all at the same level. As your clutch wears, often you'll find that these end up sitting all at different levels. Modern clutches have got 15 to 20 little fingers around them, and as the spring pressure changes, those fingers all sit at different levels. This one you can adjust. So we're going to just undo these bolts around here now and take the pressure plate and the clutch plate out and have a look at them. Whenever you're working on old tractors like this or any old machinery, when I say old machinery, anything that's more than about 25 years old, just remember the clutch plates and the brake shoes probably contain asbestos. The linings on them used to all be made out of asbestos, so be very careful not to inhale the dust that comes out. I always lay newspaper down on the ground underneath it, and then I use a solution of about 25% dishwashing liquid to about 75% water, and I wash it all down with that onto the newspaper, screw the newspaper up, put it in a plastic bag and dispose of it. So just keep that in mind whenever you're working on these old machines. Okay, so this is the clutch plate, and this is the asbestos on it, these pads around the outside. Now this clutch plate is worn right out. You can see the rivet heads here are level with the top of it, and they've just started rubbing and getting scratch marks in them. The bottom of the rivets are pretty close to sticking right through as well. I don't know whether this one did, but often there's some grooves cut in them as well, and this just helps when you push the clutch down to allow the air to get in there and help to separate it. If you've got pads that are smooth all the way around, sometimes you'll get a slight vacuum effect with the air and it just won't disengage properly. This side is not quite so worn. I think these are still available brand new. You can get new linings put on them, but because these splines are so worn in here, I would be very reluctant to reline this one. The pressure plate, however, doesn't look too bad. It has been caught just in time so that the brass rivets on here haven't marked the surface too much. You can see a little bit of a mark here where they've been rubbing and a little bit here, but nothing too bad. If we turn it over, if we shake it round, everything's tight. There's no broken springs in here that I can see, so we'll reuse that. Put a new clutch plate in, and if we come up here and have a look at the flywheel, You can see all the asbestos dust that I was talking about. I haven't washed that out yet. I'll do that in a minute. This is the spigot bearing where the front of the clutch output shaft goes. And this bearing is worn right out. It still has the balls in it, but it should have a cage like it does where my finger is here. But you can see most of the balls are just free floating. That bearing will fly apart fairly quickly and not do any good. So we'll need to replace that too. Alright, well thank you very much for watching. I hope you've learnt something from this and I hope to see you again next week. Thanks very much. Bye.